Okay, so you really want to get a handle on this whole supply chain resilience thing, and you found this pretty intense academic paper, and you're hoping we can kind of break it down.
Right.
So no pressure, right?
No pressure.
It's called Towards the Critical Realism Synthesis of Configurational and Middle-Range Theorizing
Right.
by Mohsin, Malik, and Imran Ali.
Yeah.
Just came out this year.
Uh-huh.
I'm already feeling a little intimidated just by the title.
Oh, yeah.
Can we start with middle-range theory?
Sure.
What is that?
It's actually not as complicated as it sounds.
Okay.
It basically means instead of having these grand theories that are trying to explain everything,
Right.
you have more focused theories
Yeah.
that apply to specific situations or fields.
Okay.
So in this case, it's all about supply chains.
So it's more practical.
Exactly.
Much more useful.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay.
Targeted knowledge.
And then we've got this configurational theorizing thing going on.
Yeah. That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Instead of assuming there's like one magic bullet
Okay.
that makes the supply chain resilient,
Yeah.
this approach says, hey,
Yeah.
it's more like a recipe.
Oh, okay.
You need the right combination of ingredients to get the cake you want.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So no magic bullet, but a whole recipe for resilience.
Exactly.
I'm into it.
All right.
What are some of the key ingredients then?
Well, first we got to understand how they're defining supply chain resilience in the first place.
So is it more than just
Is the
bouncing back from a disruption?
Yeah, it's not just about recovering.
Okay.
It's about adaptability.
Okay.
Being able to roll with the punches,
Uh-huh.
adjust to new conditions,
Makes sense.
preparedness, having plans in place before something happens.
Right, so you're not caught off guard.
Exactly.
Okay.
Maintaining control, not letting a disruption throw you totally off course, and staying connected.
Okay.
Keeping those communication lines open throughout your network.
Makes a lot of sense.
They actually use the Australian food supply chain as a case study.
Oh, interesting.
It's got some interesting vulnerabilities that make it a good example.
So it's not just theoretical.
Yeah.
This is real-world stuff.
Very real.
Okay, I like it.
Okay.
So what are the factors that actually contribute to this kind of resilience?
They look at 4 key factors.
Okay.
You can think of them as the building blocks
of
a resilient supply chain.
All right, lay them on me.
Okay.
What are they?
So we have co-opetition.
Okay, competition. Now that sounds kind of contradictory.
Right.
Are we talking about cooperating with our competitors here?
You got it.
That seems a little...
I know it seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But working with your rivals can be incredibly beneficial.
So things like joint ventures or
absolutely
sharing resources.
Yeah. Or even just being open to communication.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's co-opetition.
Uh-huh.
What's the next one?
The next one's a little more familiar.
Okay.
It's multi-sourcing.
Multi-sourcing.
Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
Having multiple suppliers.
Gotcha.
For those critical components.
So if one supplier goes down,
exactly,
you got backups.
You're not completely out of luck.
Okay, makes sense.
Right. What else we got?
Then there's supply chain collaboration.
Collaboration.
This is all about partnerships.
Okay.
And not just with your direct suppliers, but across the entire chain.
So like a whole ecosystem?
Yeah, think big picture.
Okay.
Sharing information, coordinating activities, working together towards shared goals.
So we're seeing a real theme of partnership here.
Definitely a common thread.
Okay. Last one, what is it?
Supply chain agility.
Agility.
This one's all about speed and responsiveness.
Gotcha.
Being able to sense changes or disruptions and react quickly.
Yeah.
Being nimble and adaptable.
Okay, so we got co-opetition, we got multi-sourcing, we got collaboration, and we've got agility.
Yeah.
How did the researchers actually decide?
That's a good question.
To focus on those 4?
These factors are actually rooted in 2 well-established business theories, the relational view and dynamic capabilities.
So it's not just random ideas they pulled out of a hat.
Right.
They're based on some solid thinking.
Yeah, these are concepts that have been studied and tested for years.
The relational view basically says strong relationships are crucial for success.
Absolutely.
In business.
It's all about who you know.
And then dynamic capabilities.
Right.
That's about being able to adapt.
Yeah, being flexible.
And change with the times.
Exactly.
Okay, so these are some well-established business ideas.
Yeah, but how do they actually play out in real life?
Okay, well, this is
what did the research find?
Where it gets really interesting.
All right, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
So they used a method called qualitative comparative analysis.
Oh, boy.
Or QCA.
Okay.
To study 22 companies.
And what did they learn?
In the Australian food supply chain.
Okay.
And here's the key finding.
Okay.
Individual factors weren't enough.
So it's not just about having one of these things.
It's not about having one.
Right.
It's about the combination.
It's about the right mix.
Exactly. It's like baking a cake.
Okay. Yeah, we're back to the cake.
You can have flour and sugar.
Right.
But it's not a cake.
Right.
Without the right blend of ingredients.
Okay, so what were the winning recipes for supply chain resilience?
They found 3 different configurations.
3 configurations.
That consistently led to high resilience.
So 3 different paths.
3 different paths.
So success.
To the same outcome.
Okay, give me the first one.
All right, the first one.
What is it?
They called Agile Synergizer.
Agile Synergizer, okay.
Sounds pretty dynamic, right?
I like it.
Yeah.
Hey.
So these companies combine co-opetition, supply chain collaboration, and supply chain agility.
So it's all 3 of those things.
All 3 working together.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, think about a group of food producers.
Okay.
They compete with each other, obviously.
Yeah, they're all trying to sell their product.
But they also share information.
Okay.
They might coordinate their logistics.
Yeah.
And they're able to adapt really quickly.
Like if there's a sudden change in demand.
Exactly.
Or a disruption.
Okay, so they're working together, but they're also competing.
They're finding that balance, and that's what makes
them
super resilient.
Very resilient.
All right, so that's our Agile Synergizer.
Agile Synergizer.
What's number 2?
Okay, number 2.
What do we got?
It's called Sourcing Synergizer.
Sourcing Synergizer.
So instead of agility, this one focuses on multi-sourcing.
Multi-sourcing, okay.
Along with co-opetition.
Right.
And collaboration.
Okay, so imagine, let's see if I can picture this.
Yeah.
A bunch of fruit suppliers.
Okay.
They're all working together on things like marketing and distribution.
Right.
But each supplier...
But each one is also
getting their fruit.
Sorting from multiple farms.
From different places.
Yeah.
So if one farm is a bad crop...
They can just ramp up production at another one.
Come on.
And no one even notices the disruption.
That's how you stay resilient.
That's the Sourcing Synergizer in action.
Okay, so 2 totally different recipes.
Yeah, 2 different paths. But both lead to...
like same outcome.
High resilience.
Yeah.
What about the companies that weren't resilient?
Oh, yeah.
Was there a common denominator there?
Absolutely. There was a 3rd configuration.
Okay.
And it was not a recipe for success.
Okay, let's hear it. They called it parochialist.
Parochialist.
Doesn't sound too good, does it?
Not really.
These companies are lacking all 3.
Okay, all 3 of the good things.
Yeah, co-opetition, collaboration, and agility.
So they're basically...
isolated.
Going alone.
Don't share information.
Okay.
Slow to adapt.
So if our synergizers are like the heroes of the supply chain world, the parochialists are...
the villains.
The villains, yeah.
Stuck in their own little worlds.
Can you give me like a real world example?
Sure.
Of a parochialist?
Imagine a small independent grocery store.
Okay.
They refuse to work with other stores.
Okay.
They only order from one supplier.
Oh boy.
And they have no online presence.
So if anything disrupts their supply chain...
yeah, like a storm.
Yeah.
Or their supplier goes out of business.
They're done.
They're in big trouble.
Well, backup plan.
No way to adapt.
That's the danger of being a parochialist.
That's the parochialist trap.
Okay, so it's really clear. It's not just one thing.
It's the
combination that matters.
A whole recipe.
Were there any other like big surprises in the research findings?
One of the most important findings was that co-opetition and collaboration are necessary for resilience.
Okay.
But they're not sufficient.
Necessary but not sufficient. I think I need a little help.
Okay.
Unpacking that one.
Think about baking that cake again. All right, back to the cake.
Flour is necessary.
Okay.
Eggs are necessary.
Yeah.
But they won't make a cake without sugar and butter and all the other ingredients.
So you need the whole recipe.
Exactly.
So in the same way, you can be friendly with your competitors. You can be collaborating with your suppliers.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Okay.
But it's not enough.
You got to have the other pieces.
The other elements.
Like the agility.
The agility or the multi-sourcing.
And a multi-sourcing.
Okay, so it's like a multi-pronged approach.
And it's a system.
You mentioned earlier that this research used this QCA method.
Right. Qualitative comparative analysis.
Can we talk a little bit more about that? It seems like...
yeah, it's a pretty sophisticated way.
A pretty high-level way.
Of analyzing data.
Of looking at all this.
It's especially useful for understanding complex things like supply chain resilience.
Because it's not just one or two variables.
A bunch of factors.
There's a lot going on.
Interacting with each other.
So how does QCA actually help us?
Well, it goes beyond...
Let's move our supply chains.
Simple correlations.
Okay.
It helps you identify those causal relationships.
So what's actually causing what?
What's actually driving the outcome.
So you can look at your own situation.
Right.
And say, okay.
And say, do we have strong collaboration?
Do we have the right pieces in place?
Are we agile enough?
Where are weak points?
What can we improve?
I'm starting to see why you're so into this research.
It's fascinating. It's not just about
finding answers.
getting the answer.
It's about asking better questions.
It's about the right questions.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier that the researchers found some interesting asymmetries.
Right.
Meaning the presence of something
Right.
doesn't always have the opposite effect.
It's not always a mirror image
Of its absence.
Yeah. For example,
Okay, give me an example.
you can have high resilience
Okay.
even without multi-sourcing
Interesting.
or agility,
Okay.
as long as you have strong co-opetition and collaboration.
So those two are really crucial.
Those are the foundational elements.
But if you're missing both.
You're missing both multi-sourcing and agility.
Multi-sourcing and agility.
You're almost guaranteed
to
have low resilience.
So you can't just ignore
You can't just pick and
lots
choose.
of other factors.
You got to have a balanced approach.
And what about co-opetition?
Yeah, co-opetition is interesting.
How does that fit in?
It's essential
Okay.
for high resilience,
Okay.
but it doesn't seem to have much impact
Okay.
on those with low resilience.
So if you're already struggling,
Right, if you're already in a bad spot.
just being friendly with your competitors
Yeah, it's not going to be enough.
isn't going to save the day.
You got to address those other factors.
Now, this study focused
Yeah.
specifically on the Australian food supply chain.
Right.
How do we know if these findings
That's a great question.
are applicable to other industries or
It's all about context.
other parts of the world?
While the specific findings
Okay.
might not be directly transferable,
Yeah.
the underlying principles
Okay.
and the analytical framework.
So the big ideas
The big ideas are universal.
universally applicable.
Yeah.
It's about understanding
It's about understanding how they play out
how they manifest
in your particular situation.
in your specific context.
So we've got to take these concepts
Right.
and adapt them and apply them
To our own reality.
to your own world.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have
Middle range theory.
little range theories,
Configurational thinking.
configurational thinking.
All the ingredients of resilience.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
I want to make sure our listener has something
Right.
they can actually use.
The best advice I can give
Okay, what is it?
is to start by asking the right questions.
Okay.
Don't assume there's one magic solution.
Right.
Step back.
Okay.
Analyze your current supply chain.
Really take a good look at it.
What are your strengths?
Let's work it.
What are your weaknesses?
Where are the
What are
vulnerability?
you exposed?
And then use this research as a framework
Right.
to kind of figure out
To guide your efforts.
where you need to focus.
Be proactive, not reactive.
Don't wait for a crisis to hit.
Right. The best time to build a resilient supply chain.
Before you start thinking about resilience.
Before you need it.
That's such good advice.
It's all about preparation. I think we've given our listener a lot to chew on today.
I hope so.
A real deep dive into supply chain resilience.
We went deep.
So we've talked about these different recipes for resilience.
Yeah.
The agile synergizer.
Right.
The sourcing synergizer. And of course, we can't forget the cautionary tale
Right.
of the parochialist.
The villain of this story.
Exactly.
But now it's time to turn things around
Okay.
and look at your supply chain.
So what about you, the listener?
Yeah.
Out of all these ingredients we've been discussing,
Uh-huh.
which ones are you missing?
And which combinations are going to work best for you?
Because it's not one size fits all, right?
No, every situation is different.
You got to consider your industry,
Absolutely.
your company culture,
Yeah.
the specific risks you're facing.
Think about your own context.
This research gives you a roadmap,
A framework.
but you got to fill in the details.
Ask yourself the tough questions.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Try things out.
See what works.
And be prepared to adjust as you go.
Yeah. This isn't a one and done kind of thing.
Building resilience is an ongoing process.
And you don't have to go it alone.
Yeah, there's tons of resources out there.
Experts you can consult with,
Uh-huh.
maybe even some unexpected collaborations.
Yeah, sometimes the best partnerships come
Yeah.
from the most surprising places.
Exactly.
Just stay curious, stay connected, and never stop learning.
Great advice.
Thanks.
Well, that's all the time we have
Okay.
for today's deep dive.
Hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned a thing or two.
Yeah, and more importantly,
Yeah.
that you can actually use this knowledge.
To build a more resilient supply chain.
Absolutely.
Until next time, may your supply chains
Yeah.
be resilient, adaptable, and ready for anything.
Stay strong out there.